Actually, you guys have talked about different kinds of punishment. What about if we set it the right way? That we were ordered to have what's known as gradating, going step by step. So you begin with the lightest. You know, you don't begin, many people once we talk about punishment, their mind right away goes to
I'm gonna spank that
beating and hitting, and spanking and all of that. No. As a matter of fact, beating and spanking would come by the end of the chain. The bottom, that's your last resolution. Force, power, and violence. But before that, there are so many means of punishment that can correct the child. For instance, you can correct by just the word. Like the Prophet ﷺ once was eating, and that boy, Umar ibn Abi Salama, whom the Prophet ﷺ was raising in his house, he was eating and his hand was going right and left and everywhere, collecting the food from the tray. So the Prophet ﷺ simply corrected him, said, Ya ghulam, sammillah, wa kul biyaminik, wa kul mimma yalik. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. It was sufficient for Umar ibn Abi Salama to learn. Not only that, he taught us, so that this hadith became like a doctrine of etiquette for the entire ummah. Some people, the word will be sufficient to them, and some others, they will not listen. So we can go to the next step. Next step, for instance, that
depriving of toys or playtime or something like that.
Well, yes. Also, by instructing this is wrong, and you have to change it by your own hand. Use your authority. I remember that once the Prophet ﷺ was on the back of his ride, and behind him there was his cousin Al-Fadl ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him and his father. And a lady came to ask the Prophet ﷺ a question. So Al-Fadl was looking at the young woman because she was pretty. And the Prophet ﷺ, by his own hand, he changed his head. He turned his head to the other side. So he would keep looking, and the Prophet ﷺ would keep changing him. If it requires that, do that. And that's why you have the authority. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ. Whoever sees and witnesses wrongdoing, he should change it. Either by the hand, and the hand he expresses about authority. Or by the tongue, the advice. Or at least if you cannot afford it, then you should condemn it by the heart. Then sometimes the mistake is so severe. And it comes from a grown-up child. Especially if it is against somebody else.
Like a teenager?
Exactly. Hitting somebody else, hating his brother, stealing the property of somebody else and so on. Addressing others with foolishness. Then the punishment has to be adequate. Never hit any of his children nor of his wives, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Because the Prophet ﷺ was a role model. When he advised somebody said, Ya Rasulullah, advise me. He said, La taghdab. Don't get angry. So the man said, advise me. He asked him. So the Prophet ﷺ answered 3 times, La taghdab. La taghdab. Stay cool. Don't get angry. Don't lose it, man. So the Prophet ﷺ, no matter what happens, he never addressed anyone with foolishness, nor did he ﷺ hit anyone but a kafir on the battlefield. That's different. And the Prophet ﷺ is our best example and role model. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Talking to Osama about deserting and boycotting, since you brought this up. As a matter of fact, it was prescribed. But remember, it has to be in proportion with the mistake. If the mistake is really big. So, because this is a very, very severe punishment. I remember the event of the 3 companions who were left behind and did not join the Prophet ﷺ in the battle of Tabuk. So what happened to them since they were left behind without a valid reason?
Oh man, Allah, they boycotted. By every Muslim.
They were commanded, the entire Muslim Ummah, they were commanded to boycott them. Was it severe? It was very severe. It lasted for 50 days.
They thought of taking their own lives and
exactly.
They had nowhere to go.
Exactly. So was that punishment sufficient? It was very adequate, very sufficient.